How is the day today? So,
Like our second first Thanksgiving. Exactly.
yeah, with so many kids coming back. Did we, I think we actually got some kids back we didn't expect back, did we not? I know that was the case at the high school.
Coffee smells good.
Would you like a cup of coffee?
Thanks. I'll get you. No, because then I'll be up all night.
They just want only coffee instead.
Dane, menswear, and what do you use?
You okay, Joe? I'm doing great. How are things in the wonderful, wonderful world of Free Farms?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We're doing that CLI testing. And one of the things is to read a story to them while they look at the pictures, and then they have to retell the story, and then they have to answer questions. And one of the questions was, why is this child sad? The story was that Hank is going to school for the first time, and he's sad because he misses his family, and he doesn't know if he's going to have friends. And so when I asked why is he sad, the child said, well, because he's afraid of the germs, and he misses his family. There was nothing about germs in that story.
My goodness, my goodness.
Wow, the sign of the times.
Yes, exactly.
Really, it's ready.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe, I put you one over here.
You gonna put me
I
over the
I
corner?
wouldn't mind.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna put you back here behind me so I can keep an eye on you.
I think Salazar wins the award for giving us some background music. A little bit more.
I can't take all the credit. That's Mrs. Gru's YouTube channel.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. They can't vote till now. Opened up YouTube.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I'm telling you, I'm so excited that the sound works.
When Daryl starts his show, if you would hit that light switch behind Joe.
Daryl's got a show?
Not yet.
Later,
When Daryl starts.
when the show starts.
And where is he on the,
We're gonna spray a little sawdust on it.
where is he on?
He's early.
Oh, City of England.
Yeah, you can pause it.
Where? How?
So it's on the web, on the YouTube page. It's there on the monitor.
No, that's this. Alan? No. No. There it is. But you could hear it, huh? Not all exactly.
Yeah.
Please. Oh, that's where we're going.
That's all of the.
These are OTMs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
You just had to fill that other one out the other day. I got you pulled up.
No more acting. No more acting. Another one.
Listo. You've all ready? We will not start until you are.
They're ready.
Okay.
I don't know what
Just
we're
wait a
recording.
Actually, we're not going to start until that meeting's over.
Absolutely.
I've been doing, I'll hit live.
Where'd the music go?
What's your turn?
She said it's gonna put us to sleep. Pretty chat. Extra pen.
I always carry one government just in case you need one.
Thank you.
It's a red one.
That's
Don't bleed all over us.
I've got one here.
Tell 'em to go on.
It's not red.
If you don't like red,
Sorry.
It's too late, I got one with
That's right,
us.
Deborah prefers blue. Let me.
Well, I got this one right here.
I'm good, just as long as I got some right one.
Just.
I mean, I got, I always carry one of it here, so.
It's now 7 o'clock and we'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. And if everyone is stand, Greg, please, in the invocation.
Lord, we thank you for this time here. We thank you for allowing us to do the business of this district. We pray that everything we do will be pleasing to you, that you'll give us guidance in what is good and just for all of this community and all of this district. We thank you for all the blessings you have given us, and we pray that you'll forgive us our failures. We ask all this in your name and our Lord Jesus' name.
And Deborah, lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all the guests that are here tonight. Thank you all for coming out on this rainy night. Okay, anybody sign up for comment? We'll skip item 4 and go to item 5, presentation by the City of Venus. Mr. Cook.
If you don't mind, I'll introduce Darrell. Darrell Cook is our Director of Community Development here in Venus. And with everything that we have going on in the city, and I report things from time to time, but Darrell is here to put an official stamp on this and kind of bring us up to date as far as what's going on and what's about to take place in the growth of the city. So I'll step back and Darrell Cook.
Okay. Mr. President, trustees, thank you. Can you start?
This is Gibbons, Texas, located in north central Texas, on the southern edge of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolis. It is conveniently situated on State Highway 67, equal distance to both large cities, with all of the employment, education, sports, and entertainment opportunities they have to offer. Currently, Venus is the fastest growing city in Johnson County. There are a number of affordable residential developments in progress, as well as being planned. And homes are selling and filling as fast as they can be built. Commercial and retail projects also abound in Venus to serve the local residents. Despite the rapid growth, many properties, large and small, are still available for all types of development: residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural. Venus, Texas, family and business friendly, with small town charm in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. is under construction and open for business.
So this is the city's new promotional ad. As it said in there, it's the fastest growing city in Johnson County. The slides.
This is Venus Tech.
Okay, so again, my name is Darrell Cook. In addition to the Community Development Director, I'm also the Assistant City Administrator.
Which slideshow? All the way over to the, there we go.
Next one. So what I'm going to do is, as Mr. Hopper said, brief you a little bit on the development going on. I'm sure you've seen a lot of construction going on in the city recently. Probably one that's most visible is Palladium. It's at 157 and 67. Palladium Venus is going to be 120 luxury apartments. They're going to start accepting applications March of next year. They're going to open in June of next year, and they expect to be fully leased in spring of 22. The next one is Legacy Homes, 328 manufactured homes. Just to orient you here, that's at the top center is your elementary school. That's 214 going down to the prison, and then that's 109 coming out of the elementary school. And so it's manufactured homes, but they're in a manufactured home community. If you look at all the things around here. But it's going to add about 328 homes, 2 kids each. And it's going to be well over 600 students, potentially. Next week.
Darrell, what is their estimated ETA?
That's hard to say right now. We're still going through the planning process with them. They submitted their plat. They need some work on it. There's some flood plain issues. So we're probably looking, I would say, at least a couple of years. Patriot Estates, the last 2 phases, you can see there, County Road 502, County Road 620. The last 2 phases are going to include 647 single-family homes. So again, 2 kids, over 1,200 students. Sorry. Now Venus Parkway, this is not like a development. This is city initiated. We're going to build a 4-lane divided parkway, 8-inch concrete construction with a lighted and landscape median. You can see it's Highway 67, and between that and County Road 109. If you're familiar with where the scrapyard is, and they have that unimproved crossing, we want to take that unimproved crossing and improve it, and put that straight through there. Especially because 157, if you know, it's going to be widened, and it's going to come right back behind here. That's basically, for a couple of years, that's going to be 1-lane road, Main Street. So there'll be flaggers in each end. So we're trying to create another way in and out, along with other reasons to build that. But
Like what?
Construction.
sorry,
Like what?
like what?
Like what other kind of reasons?
Well, the cement factory there with the trucks, it gives them another way in and out without going past Meadow Ridge or without going down to B.B. Jones. It's going to give, down here next to the Meadow Ridge 3, 17 acres. The developer there came to us as soon as they found out about the road. They want to develop a mixed-use development, homes and light industrial. But again, giving more access to the industrial area there along 109.
What's the relative timeline on that, Darrell? Sorry,
Well,
I asked that.
no, that's fine. What we're trying to do now is we're having a little trouble getting the right-of-way acquisition from one of the landowners. Two of the landowners were like, oh, yes. The third one is holding out a bit. So it's hard to say.
But
To answer your question.
you're-
But we're ready to go on it. The city has funded it. We're ready to go once we get the right-of-way acquisition.
You're wanting to do this before TxDOT starts Main Street.
Oh, yes, correct. We want it finished before then.
It seems that one of the biggest issues we have though, and that gives us a third entrance into town, but we've only got one way you can easily get out of town because when that highway's running in the mornings, you not only can't get out of Patriot Estates, you can't get out of town either, other than the stoplight. I mean, I don't know what you have to do to work with the state in slowing some of that traffic down, or?
Every time that it's brought up about traffic lights on 67, they first ask, how many fatal accidents have you had at that intersection?
Do we need to have a few?
One in 5 years.
Basically, yeah, you do.
And so that's what they ask when you say like 1 in 5 years, they're like, sorry.
'Cause I know
The
that,
idea behind the highways for them is not to stop it,
Sure.
because it takes away from it being a highway. So they're gonna resist it, not that it can't be done,
Right.
they're just gonna resist it.
because, I mean, I know that even our buses have a hard time getting out and in because of the traffic in the morning. And, you know, Alvarado slows it down to 30 miles an hour with their school zones, plus 2 lights, but, you know, I guess I was kind of saying, what about slowing it down?
That's state, they mandate the speed limits. They set it.
We need to build a school up there.
That's a thought.
There you go, put the school zone.
It was bad getting out of town when you got those buses stopping at that railroad up there.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the only place they can
Can
get
you
in,
go back?
more or less.
Just roll the deal back.
Really little mouse back.
You can just hit the arrow on the. Oh, there. Okay, so this is Venus Fuel Stop, and they've broken ground. It's next to the liquor store. It's gonna be a convenience store with gas pumps. It's gonna have fast food in it. I don't think they've decided on a brand yet. So their building permits are being checked now. So we hope to see them actually start construction in the next couple of weeks. We kind of like this. It's right on 67. I know it's going to increase traffic a little bit, but we like this because now people can actually see that there's a city here, zipping by on 67. When we reach out to businesses and commercial entities, they're always claiming we don't have enough rooftops for them to invest in the city yet. I don't think they see, I don't think they wander off of 67. So I'm hoping when this starts, and we've been waiting for the first commercial property on 67, because when the first one does, then they'll come flooding. Nobody wants to be the first. And with commercial and business in the city, we gain more sales tax, which could potentially reduce property tax for the city. I don't know how that affects your property, different taxes, but for the city.
Well, now the county line runs just right, is it just
To the,
right?
to the top right.
Yeah, no, this will be in our district for sure. The county
I think
line
so.
a little further east. Yeah, no, the county line.
No, it's in Ellis County.
That's it.
Oh, that is?
This is
Yes,
Ellis
sir.
County.
So
This is
that
Patriot
line
Parkway,
runs
the
really
road.
cockeyed there.
It is, it's a little bit.
It's right there. Right there in the
So
top
that's
right
just the
corner.
city there.
So that Ellis gets the liquor store as well, right?
Correct.
Really? Wow.
But we had a vote on it. The citizens voted on that.
Well, it's in the city of
It's in the
Venus.
city.
It's in the city.
not-
But we don't get the debt money from
No,
it?
school does
It's
not.
not- The school
The
does.
city does, the school does not.
Oh.
But-
Yeah, I didn't realize it had gone that, I thought it came down that far west. I thought it was a little further east, that line.
It's literally just on the other side of the, like he said, just the very corner, the county line runs right on the west side of the liquor store.
The owner did that on purpose. He wanted to be in Ellis County. So
Yeah, I mean, clearly, that's.
Right inside.
Because he could have gone either way,
Correct.
so.
Okay. And then this is the Venus Country Store. It's right on Main Street, just north of 2nd Street. They've been building, and they start, stop, start, stop, start, and stop.
They're on a 5-year plan.
It's frustrating, you know, we keep thinking it's gonna open, and they have a lot of activity, and then we don't see it. They go dark for a couple of months, and then they come back and get all busy again, and go dark for a couple of months.
I mean, it's a nice looking building.
It is. And that other convenience store, by the way, is going to have a similar facade. So it's not gonna be like just a white box.
Right.
The other one is either, so. Okay. Now this is something new, where the city is trying to create a central business district where we take the 9 square blocks there. Right in the center block is the town square. Then we go another block. We want to create a central business district for long-range planning so that as the buildings crumble, decay, discontinue, then it's already zoned for commercial. So if people want to come in and start a business in the central business district, they won't have to go through the zoning. So that's our goal. Any of the homes there, we are not going to knock on their door and ask them to leave. We're going to leave them alone. They can stay forever. But if we don't start the district, it will never happen. So through attrition, we hope it develops into, and we can do some downtown revitalization for long-range planning. So that's our goal. Matter of fact, it's going to be taken up by the Planning and Zoning Commission this Thursday night. And if it passes them, then it's going to go to City Council in October for their final determination.
And that's 1st through 4th and.
Correct. At the north is 1st Street down to 4th Street, and then from Locust to Oak.
Yeah,
Correct.
I got a letter on
No, that does not include your house, does it?
that. And my house is on 4th, but the other side of the street.
Right. And if you were within 200 feet,
Yeah,
Of
I
that
got a letter.
boundary.
That's why I got a letter. yes.
right. Okay. Okay, that's for there. We have many other developments. For example, Heritage Hills, which is on 67, just this side of V.B. Jones, you know, the flashing yellow light. You've probably seen some construction there. Didn't include it tonight because they're Midlothian schools. In far south Venus, we have about we have one development, Blue Stem Hills, which is at 157 and Marion Road, just south of 2258. There's Blue Stem Hills has 1 acre lots, about 51 of them. It's under construction. People are already living in there. That's in the city limits of Venus, but it's a Maypearl School District. Right across the street is another 1,725 homes going in Brahmin Ranch. They started turning dirt, lots of dirt, if you've been down there to see. That's going to be, but again, that's going to be in Maypearl schools. But those are going to be higher end homes, anywhere from 50 to 70 feet, and they're looking at $350,000 to $400,000. Now we have another developer, prolific developer, J&J Development. They've been around for almost a couple of years, and they have almost 600 acres. They're buying or bought, but in 2 years they don't turn the spade of dirt yet. So we can present that. They, again, like the one store, they come and go. They go dark on us for a long time. So because they're not yet constructing, that's why we didn't include it. They've been promising we're going to do this development, do that development. They haven't done anything yet. So when they start, and we met with them just today, and one of their developments wants to be just south of here, in the Johnson.
Are they still looking at that?
They are. Still looking.
Are they still talking about some 300 homes give or take?
Correct, I think the number today was 370, they're gonna be 40-foot lots, which we're not too happy about really, but, you know, the goal of developing in the city is to provide a little bit of everything for anybody. We don't want people coming to Venus, not seeing what they like, and then driving away. If they like the small lots, we want to have some small ones. If they like manufactured homes, we want to provide some manufactured homes. If they like the large, $350,000, $400,000 houses, we want to provide some of that. Now, the one south of here, Johnson Track, they have a new name for it, I don't remember. Again, they want to do 40-foot lots, and that might be a hard sell. And that's smaller than a basketball court, and that's the lot. So the home is going to be small. But there's a market for that. A lot of people, millennials, empty nesters, they don't want to do yard work. So they will buy the smaller homes. We just don't want a whole city full of smaller homes.
But they're still talking about having access, a direct access to 157.
157. He knows that that's the only way he's probably going to get that development.
Right.
Is to provide, so they don't have to go back to 214 around the elementary
I
school.
talked to him, he said he's got options.
Yes, he's got options, right?
Yeah.
Which would really make that Venus Parkway that much more important,
Correct.
I would think.
Any
And
questions?
now, TxDOT, if my understanding is correct, they've actually pushed their date for this, this little extension right here to 24, is that correct?
Late 23, I heard, or 24.
Well, different
It-
from their initial 21.
21, 22.
Right.
And then there's another TxDOT. It's north of 67 on 157 to straighten it going back into Midlothian, but that's probably 5 or 6 years out. Any questions?
Rich Hopper, the liquor store, what I understand, had to be in Ellis County because he owns the one in Alvarado, and they couldn't have two in the same county.
Correct.
Could not own 2 liquor stores in the same county?
There's something about some break, tax break or something. He couldn't have 2 in one, and that's why he did.
So he had to be in Ellis County.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Daryl, thank you.
And I'd like to come back, maybe once a quarter or so, because growth is happening. We're going, things are gonna change. So anytime you guys would like, I'd be glad to be here.
I'd like to have an update every quarter.
Sure.
Good. I've enjoyed this one.
Thank you. Patience.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to item 6, campus recognitions, and Mr. Hopper.
Yes, sir. I got several recognitions here, if I can do this without my glasses falling out. So, one of the things that we like to do, and we typically would do this in August, however, COVID, and so August, things have been put on hold just a bit. So the first thing I want to do is simply read off our teachers of the year for this past year, the 1920 school year. And so on the primary level, and this is teachers and staff of the year, primary level, we had our teacher of the year was Joel Perez, and our staff person of the year was Christy Thorman. Elementary, our teacher of the year was Cassie Hanlon, and staff was Clayton Harris. Middle school, teacher of the year, Kimberly Hill, and staff, Brittany Jackson. And high school, teacher of the year was Lacey Flynn, and staff was Myrna Hernandez. So these people have done a fantastic job. They were our OTYs of the years last year, and they just continue to do marvelous things for us. So now what we'd like to do is transition into our staff and teachers of the month. And we have a couple of those here tonight. For obvious reasons, people aren't getting out to go to meetings of any type if they don't have to. So we're very appreciative of the ones that could be here tonight. So thank you so much. So let me begin with the ones that are here tonight. And our teacher of the month for the elementary school is Ms. Tasha Mosley. Ms. Mosley, come on up. So I am going to need to put these back on because I've got to read all these grand and glorious things. Come on up here. Ms. Mosley has taken online learning by the horns and has made it her own. Her students and parents are happy with their online learning experience. She also has mentored other teachers who were concerned and nervous about the unknown of online teaching world. Ms. Mosley has done an awesome job rolling with the punches of online learning. So once again, congratulations to Ms. Tasha Mosley. I guess we can do this. Is that it? Give her a hand. We need a picture of this. Well, we'll get all of ours. Come on up here, Ms. Mosley. Come on. You can't get away from this. We've gotten out of practice. I'm sorry. I apologize.
All right, there we go. Boom, boom. Smile under your laugh.
All right. Thank you so much. Also, from Venus Primary School, Teacher of the Month, Ms. Deborah Bartula. So this is, I've got so much written about you, Deborah, that I've got to kind of hike it slowly a little bit. So here we go. All right. Our Teacher of the Month for September is Mrs. Deborah Bartula. Ms. Bartula is a pre-K teacher, has really jumped into the connected learning process and has been a role model for other teachers on the campus. This is what her nominations said. Ms. Bartula has been helpful to all teachers as we have implemented Seesaw. She has a great attitude and is friendly with other teachers. She has a real love of her students that shows in her actions and her attitude. She has really stepped up and helped the specials team with all of our online production and information. Ms. Bartula has been a great help. She helps the hallways traffic. She is also has great knowledge of technology, and she is always there to share with anyone who needs help. She also has gone to great extents for ESL students and their needs. She is also funny and easygoing. So, once again, Ms. Deborah Bartula.
There we go.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Let's give her another
Appreciate
hand.
that.
Thank you. All right. Other
Mr.
teachers.
Hopper, I have to compliment those smiles, they're great.
This is the best mine has ever looked, I can tell you. I can assure you. I am going to read some names of, I'm going to read these out. These are also Student of the Month, and we're recording all of this, right? So we'll have this for people to go back and look at. This is Student of the Month for the primary school, Fernanda Dominguez. And Ms. Dominguez is our Student of the Month for September. She's a first grader. Ms. Fernanda Dominguez is in Mr. Williams' class. Mr. Williams nominated her for always being kind to everyone and always doing what is expected. She's an amazing role model for her friends all around her. That's Ms. Fernanda Dominguez. So, Venus Primary Staff of the Month, Mr. Chuck Woodworth. Our staff member of the month for September is Mr. Chuck Woodworth. He is new to VPS team this year and is currently serving as the PEA. Mr. Woodworth is such a hard worker and a team player. He never waits to be asked to do something, but always offers to help in any way he can. He does an amazing job at whatever he might be doing on our campus and would be willing to do anything from changing a tire to moving boxes. Do you hear that, folks? To coaching in the gym. That's Mr. Chuck Woodworth. Elementary Student of the Month is Chase Thomason. Chase Thomason is an excellent example of what it means to be a bulldog. He's always prompt and prepared, including getting his work completed on time. He accepts responsibility, he's trustworthy and diligent, works hard, and always gives 100% and shows respect to students, teachers, and staff. Comes to school every day with a smile on his face, could not ask for a better student in my class. That's Chase Thomason. Elementary Staff Member of the Month is Shelley Flores. Shelley has worked tirelessly to register our students and accommodate their constant switching from online to face-to-face learning.
She also has fielded numerous parent calls and concerns in order to help our students get what they need. Shelley is our point of contact for numerous things, and we could not be successful without Shelley Flores. Middle school student of the month is Jonathan Fleeman. Teachers had this to say about him. He should be student of the month because every time I see him, he's so joyful and happy. He always smiles, waves, and says hello. He's bright and cheerful. You can always count on him to have a great attitude. Every day in class, Jonathan comes prepared to work, and he has a smile on his face. Currently has a 100 in this class. I've never heard anything other than yes sir, no sir from him. It's always a pleasure having him in class. Always asks questions when he doesn't understand a concept, and he works as hard as he can to turn everything in correctly. Even this early in the year, Jonathan has demonstrated the effort that it takes to be an exemplary Bulldog. He is always giving his best, is well behaved, and willing to help where needed. Jonathan Fleeman. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him. Judy Hargrove is the Venus Middle School Staff of the Month. Support Staff of the Month, Judy Hargrove. She's worked tirelessly to make sure student schedules are correct for both in-person and online students. She's always happy to help anyone, anytime they need it. Simply put, it says she's a rock star. I've got to check her on that one. She put in so many hours, sweat, and tears and effort to make sure that all of our teachers and students' needs have been met. Never asked for anything in return except patience. She is simply amazing. That's Judy Hargrove. Our middle school teacher of the month is Morgan Treadle. So, and the reason we kind of chuckle is, bless her heart, she's just gone on quarantine for COVID. So, she works hard and always has a smile on her face. She came up with the idea to do digital deep dive days campus-wide so that students all receive the same information about how to access the LMS and complete all their work. Wish her the best. Morgan Treadle, she's a wonderful. And Venus High School Student of the Month is Trent Ascona. And Trent is going to be difficult to read. That's what he is. Yeah. So, it's my privilege as one of the many eyes that monitor students at Venus High School to nominate Trent Ascona. Even though it's been a tough move and transition for Trent, Trent continues to improve himself and his education. His return to school this year with determination to succeed and become the first person in his family to graduate and receive a high school diploma. Trent's very respectful and continues to use words such as yes sir, yes ma'am when speaking to staff members. Although he's had many obstacles in the past, when speaking with him and watching his actions, the change this school year has been very identifiable. So that's Mr. Trent Ascona. Venus High School Staff of the Month, LaToya Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins is our aide for in-school suspension. Ms. Hawkins has one of the most interesting jobs at Venus High School. She consistently provides a warm and caring environment in which students are able to complete work as well as reflect on making better choices. Fortunately, however, in-school suspension has not been utilized much this semester, so we've been able to use Ms. Hawkins in a variety of roles. She works hard, is more willing to help wherever is needed. You can also find her at JV football games, cheering for our Bulldogs, and watching her son on the field. We are so glad she is here. That's Ms. LaToya Hawkins. She knows how to wear cowboy boots, doesn't she? All right. And finally, our Venus High School Teacher of the Year, Mr. Andy Haybeck. Mr. Haybeck goes above and beyond to make sure each student is able to succeed within the class and online. Not only is he working incredibly diligently with the online world history kids, he has done so much to help out Mr. Piantaneda and Mr. Walters with their world history classes. He's usually one of the first ones in the building and one of the last ones out, and he finds time to go and support our teams and their games. Mr. Andy Haybeck. So congratulations to all of these, and we will make sure that they get those awards. And finally, let me hand out our service awards. Again, this is something we typically do back in May. We didn't have a May. So we're going to do that tonight. So let me go through the 5-year service awards. And first and foremost, Ms. Patrice Brown. Come on up. Ms. Brown, here's your 5-year pin. And I got to tell you, if you've never seen this lady teach a class, just never seen her in action, she's an extremely exciting teacher in our elementary school, 4th grade. So Ms. Brown, just get a picture here.
Thank you.
All right. And I am going to, before I read the rest of these lists, I'm going to skip to another teacher who's here with us tonight. And let me go to a 20-year award, because she's sitting right here tonight, Miss Janet Weatherly. Come on. It seems like only yesterday, doesn't it? Yes. So we have different things for different amounts of time. Of course, for 20 years. I hate to only want to touch this and only get my fingerprints on it. Take a look at this. This is a nice, very heavy, nice clock. So you're welcome to touch it. That is all yours. That's the very least we can do for your time here at Venus ISD. Let's give her a big hand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will read these other names out. We also had, going back to 5 years, we had Rebecca Bailey, Kim Buck, Crystal Dean, Anna Garcia, Billy Good. We have Pam Gray, John Ann Grubbs, Cam Johnson, Casey Lane, Deanna London, Carla Monroy, Rebecca Nevin, Marcella Phelps, Christy Ryder, Manuel Sanchez. We have Michelle Salazar. Michelle Salazar. Ah, here they are. We gave her pin today. So Michelle Salazar, give her a big yeah, there were a few of them we feted today during lunch because they were here. Kathy Walters, Whitney Wicks. We also have Shirley Dykehouse and Amy Ruiz. Okay, now the 5-year pins, those were 5-year pins. The 10-year pins, Leslie Evans, Tammy Nahara. We have Sonia Rivera, Brian Williams, and Tracy Lindley. At 15 years, we have this young lady over here in Torta, Miss Elizabeth Brew. 15 years. And she got her vase today. So, others at 20 years, we have Tracy Parker, also Teal Rogers. And then at 25 years, we have Valerie Barkley, Paula Roundtree, who we gave hers today. Paula works here in this building, and then Irma Villarreal. Those are all of our service award pins. So let's give all of these folks a round. Thank you. Y'all are welcome to stick around, or we're not going to be heartbroken if you want to leave. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Y'all be careful.
Thank you
Okay,
very
Bye-bye.
much.
Consent agenda, 7A, approve previous month's board minutes. 7B, approve Lone Star Government quarterly review. 7C, approve waiver to use kindergarten reading instrument due to COVID-19. To use alternate kindergarten reading instrument due to COVID-19. 7D, approve policy manual update 115. And 7E, approve interlocal cooperation agreement for dispatching services for budget year 2020-2021 between Johnson County, Texas, and Venus ISD. Is there any of these that you would like to pull from the consent agenda to discuss? Okay. Anybody want to?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Chad and a second by Greg. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Motion passes. Okay. Item number 8, approve board operating procedures.
one of the things I wanted to do on the board operating procedures as you look at these. You know, as we've said before, and we've talked about them a bit before, it's been a while since we've done this. We didn't really come up with a whole lot of things that needed to be addressed on here. I will say that if you, as you look at procedure number 1, and then you go to number 3, there is a modification that I think we need to make there. It says requests for information or questions about any agenda item will be made by 1 p.m. It says on the 3rd business day before the scheduled meeting. So I think what we need to do with that, because will is, it kind of hems us in quite a bit. So I think if we just put in there the word should, that does not constrain us. So if there's a simple request that clearly we can meet that, you know, what happens is if it's something that's asked, for instance, the day of the board meeting, we simply run the risk of we're not going to be able to have an answer on that particular item. And if that's the case, then it may be a situation where if it mandates it or dictates it, then maybe we pull that item from the agenda if that's the situation. Will constrains us. Should doesn't. Does that make sense? So that would be a recommendation that I would make there instead of will, where we put should. Moving over to procedure number 2, and I'm simply going to address the things we're talking about modification, because otherwise we'll go through each one of these. Number 2, this simply cleans it up a little bit. You have to understand that, and I think you do, that some of this language is actually constrained even by technologies that were used even 10 years ago. It's a little more archaic. Now, for instance, number 2, if you go to number 2, the original language describes the different ways that the superintendent may communicate with the board president. Well, this just simply says the superintendent will communicate with the board president as needed, and so it strikes all of those and included even faxing. So I don't remember the last time I had to send a fax. To inform him or her of district issues that may need to come before the board for information or action. So it just kind of cleans that up a bit. Going on to procedure number 5, and again, just extraneous language. I don't know how anybody listens briefly. Basically, you're going to listen to, so just really doesn't change the meaning of anything there. Going on to number 10 now from there, and basically, for the most part, number 10 is just once again updating the language and making sure that the language is applicable. So if you look at procedure number 10, go to number 3, and then A, under there it says one of the things that we'll do to orient new board members is go through campus attendance boundaries. Well, it's simply not applicable. Not sure where we got that language from, but it doesn't apply to us. Letter B under number 3 talks about overview of district programs and operations, such as, all I did was insert the word values because it wasn't there. So then under letter BB, AEIS is outdated, and so we use a TAPR report. So that's updated there. Then it goes on down, and I simply inserted student outcome goals, goal progress measures, superintendent constraints. That's Lone Star governance language. So that's basically what I did with the rest of this. And go down to letter C, and that's what's reflected there, where it says current, and I think current team improvement goals and continuing education targets. Basically, that's all encompassed in the Lone Star governance process and board integrity instrument. So those things were put in there to sort of update this. So those are our proposed board operating procedures.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the board operating procedures as presented.
Have a motion by Chad,
Second.
second by Katie. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion passes.
And if I may, Les, on that, one of the things that we would, once our calendar gets resituated from COVID year, we really need to make a review of this each June. And so, just a real quick review.
Is there a possibility of getting that hard copy?
Absolutely.
I think
Get you one
everybody,
before you
I
leave.
think everybody needs a hard copy of that.
Yeah. We're working on putting together binders actually for everybody, but I can get you one before you leave today.
So it'd be nice to have it on the desk, you know. So I need to do this, let me look it up so I don't mess up.
One of these, board policy was one of our constraints. And
What's
it's only
that?
changed once a year.
I'm sorry,
The board policy, is it that one of our constraints was only changed once a year?
the board operating procedures.
Procedures, right.
And so the idea there is if we have that on our June agenda, say, each year, then, and typically what we'll do, if we're gonna change something in the operating procedures, you know, there's something that's happened that has brought this around, that, hey, we really need to address this. And so that way you're not willy-nilly changing. And of course, that hasn't been our problem. We haven't been doing that, but that keeps things a lot more consistent. So, yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move to item 9, first 6 weeks report.
I simply wanted to bring you a little bit of data. Didn't want to beat this to death, but just to bring you updated a little bit of data and see if you guys have any questions, things that we need to be pursuing at this point too that you might have questions about. Starting off with our enrollment data, we have today we hit 2,201. So we hit the 2,200 mark. Just for point of reference, 1 year ago today, it was 2,183. So it wasn't that far off. But that shows you where we are going. As far as our what is going on today on our campuses, also today is the first day of the second 6 weeks. We had, and I think I sent the numbers out to everybody, about 297 students returning back to campus. I believe we actually had more than that even show up today, but I'll have those official numbers here very soon. We did have some students that transitioned off campus as well. And I've got that information from the high school. I'll send that to the board as far as, you know, various reasons. A lot of those have to do with still people a little bit concerned about COVID-19. And we're not going to draw any judgments on that. I mean, if people are concerned, that's why we offered them the flexibility of online learning. So that's completely understandable. Having said that, we still today do not have a single student confirmed case of COVID-19 from school. So right now, we're in some of the students who transitioned from face-to-face to online did so for work reasons. And one of the things I believe that we're going to see statewide is that very phenomenon. Kids, you know, high school students, of course, are seeing that they can have a job and still try to do their online work. The problem is coming in where that takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline and self-constraint, and there aren't that many high school students who can actually pull that off. Typically, that's what you're doing when you're in college. So my concern with that is that we're going to have students that are going to quit, or not quit, but are going to transition to online. Maybe they'll get a job, and it's going to be very difficult for them to pursue school. I hope that we don't end up with dropouts because of that, especially if they're doing well in the workforce and then not coming and completing their high school. I have a feeling that statewide and probably nationwide, that's going to be a phenomenon that we're going to see. We want to preempt that and try to keep that from happening. But we do have some of our students who wanted to do that at high school, as far as just simply getting a job. And if they do, hopefully they can pull it off. To date, we have a total of, we have experienced since school started, 6 staff cases of COVID-19. So 6 total.
So, and there's one of those that we think may have, let me back up, one of those that could have been contracted here because a teaching partner had COVID-19 and tested positive, and it wasn't long after that her partner tested positive. Other than that, it appears that every one of these were contracted off campus somewhere. And the teacher experiences symptoms, we quarantine them, and every one of these cases that we report as COVID-19, we have to see that documentation that shows that they were COVID positive. So at this point, we have a total of 6 since school started. Our screening processes, we are still screening as students come into campuses. Temperature, as well as what you see here when you walk into this building. So since we've done that, we've had one student who's actually been sent home. So what happens is we screen them, and if they show that they have an abnormally high temperature, we'll sit them off to the side for a bit, and we'll come back later and we will take the temperature again. If it's confirmed that, yeah, we think this child's got a fever, then we will send them home. So to date, we've had one student that we've sent home. We've had 2 others that we actually had to do some double testing on. So we pulled them aside, tested them again, and the subsequent times they showed not to have a fever. So we think the screening part is assisting us as well. CDC as well as TEA says you don't have to do that, but that's what we decided to do early on, and I believe it's paying dividends. If we keep one kid from coming on campus that may have the illness, then it's done its job. So, do y'all have any questions at this point about anything regarding the first 6 weeks? I just wanted to kind of hit some of the high spots on where we are on that.
Then we'll have everybody back by the second 6 weeks.
It's hard to say, Les. It's hard to say. I know that I was out on campus today, and I was actually at the elementary school, and we had quite a few, of course, that came back to all of our campuses, but I just happened to ask some kids, well, what did you learn today? And one of the little girls looked at me, and she was in the 5th grade hallway, and she says, well, she said, looked at me, she said, it was just really nice to see my teacher in person. And I mean, she was just, and I said, in fact, what she said was, and they were lining up getting ready to catch the bus, and she said, can I stay here? That's it. We'll let you come back tomorrow, but you should probably go home tonight.
So what is our percentage now?
I'll have to get that number for you tomorrow. I don't have that with me tonight.
Because I really don't remember what it was before. I know that we probably netted about 250 from what left and what came back.
Right. We started out at 55% on campus. Okay. So we were 55-45, which when you go out to other districts, there were, in fact, I mentioned that to somebody, oh goodness, this past week, and they said, well, that's actually pretty good because some of them were as low as 30%. I haven't sought out those numbers for other districts, so I'm sure they're all over the place depending on your district. I'm sure there were those with 75-80%, but I'll get those percentages for you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Because, like I said, I think we actually got more today than what declared that they were wanting to come back. In fact, that was the indication on one of the campuses anyway.
We play a sports team, and after we play them, one of their team members come down with COVID. Is there any way we're alerted to that?
Yes.
We,
There's a notification process. It's just kind of a protocol that the teams have taken. 4 mineral wells, JV, 2 JV, 2 varsity mineral wells. We were notified after the fact that we played them that they'd since tested positive after the game. So it was like a Tuesday when we were notified. Our games with Ferris in volleyball this past Friday, they postponed those games because their volleyball team was in quarantine. And so we've since rescheduled those games as well. So the notification process, basically, the week prior to competing, it's like Monday over the weekend, spray, talk to Sanger, they exchange any information, that sort of thing prior to play. You know, they make sure that, you know, to the best of our ability, that we keep them all safe.
But what's really important in all of this, and this is something that I'll be reiterating to our staff in our next bulletin, is that all of our staff and our students inform us immediately if they're having the symptoms. But what happened with one of our competitors is that they had a student who knew full well they had been exposed to a family member that was COVID positive. There was no question about it. Didn't say anything. Kept coming to school, and she played volleyball. Well, now I guess the majority,
Seven of the volleyball team members.
7 team members test positive for COVID, as well as the boyfriend of one of the volleyball players. So that's what we want to stress to our folks, is that you have to give us that information so that we can respond to it. If we can quarantine effectively, and you come in and say, look, I don't know if I have this or not, I was exposed, well, you're going to feel fine. That doesn't mean you don't have it. So we would take that individual, quarantine them in that situation, and that's, of course, what this team would have done. And then you never have that situation occur. So that's something we'll be stressing to our folks.
Okay, anybody have any more discussion on the first 6 weeks report? Okay, we'll move to item 10, student group performance update by Dr. Morgan. That includes presentation of data collection methods and presentation of beginning of the year data.
Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to do an overview of our monitoring student growth this year. We talked about lots of different measures last year, and throughout lots of conversations, and with your approval, we've come to a consensus that MAP growth data is what's going to give us the best data. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through what we're doing, and then just to highlight just a snapshot of some of the data that we've already collected. So if you're seeing the slides, I'm on slide 2, which says what are we monitoring, and we know that our goals are focused on reading and math. And for both of these content areas, we're wanting to make sure that students are performing at grade level so that they can handle grade level content. We want to make sure that we're monitoring growth for students who are far below grade level. And what we need to be looking for is that we're accelerating their growth. So if they're only growing as much as everybody else, it's kind of like a catch-up game that they'll never win. So we want to make sure that we're accelerating their growth so that they can catch up and then be on grade level. And then we also want to make sure that we're monitoring individual growth goals of all of our students, because we want all of our students growing, not just our Tier 3 students, but our high-performance students. We want to push them and challenge them. So we want to make sure that everybody is growing throughout the year. On the next slide, you can see the 3 main tools that we're using, and NWEA MAP is the gold standard of monitoring student growth, and we're going to get into that just a little bit. We have 2 supporting tools, Lexia and Imagine Learning, and I'll talk about those as well. So on the next slide, you can see the MAP symbol, and underneath that you see a tape measure, because what the MAP data is giving us is a growth measurement. So when you think about, when your kids are little and you measure their height, and you got out the tape measure, and or when you took them to the doctor and the doctor measures their height, we see how tall they are, and then how many of you remember the percentile chart? And so they'll show you, this is where your student falls on where your child falls on the percentile chart. So compared to all of the other 8-year-olds, at about at 8 years old, your child is taller than about 75% of all 8-year-olds, and not as tall as 25% of all 8-year-olds. And so math growth is going to give us a measurement very similar. And it's called the RIT score, and RIT is R-I-T. And that is an acronym that I don't think anyone can remember what the acronym actually stands for, but the score is what is going to give us that growth measurement. So we're going to see a number for each student, ranging from 1 to in the high 200s. And what that number tells us is how they're performing in their grade level compared to other students in the same grade level. And based on that number, what type of skills that they're ready to learn. So what should they be able to handle in reading? What should they be able to handle in math based on what they already know? So it's going to help us think about where their strengths are, and then what are their areas of need so that we can help each one grow according to their measurement. So we've already gotten some data, and I apologize you don't have a graph on the screen in front of you. This is just preliminary data because we haven't finished testing everybody. As you can guess, it's a little bit tricky to test the students who are at home online, but each campus is working through a plan to get that done, and so we're still collecting all of the initial data. But just a snapshot of third grade, for example. Based on the RIT scores from the third graders that we have tested, we know that about 16% of them are already on track to meet the grade level expectations for STAR reading. And so that RIT score means that they scored in the high 190s, and that's the measurement that we get. So we know that about 16% of them are already on track to meet grade level expectations. Based on that number and some other data, we can say that about 39% of them are reading within the third grade lifestyle level, which means they should be able to read third grade level text. Some with a little bit more support than others, but that's a really good sign that so that teachers can be working with them on grade level text and not have to go down into first and second grade level text to teach them the skills. Based on the data, we also see that about 41% of our students are a little bit behind, a couple years behind, and they will probably need our Tier 3 interventionists to fill in some gaps for us. So that's where we are in reading. And then in math, we have 2 data points. We know that about 23% of our third graders are on track to meet expectations on grade level STAR based on how they performed and on the math test. And about 39% of them will probably need Tier 3 interventions to accelerate growth, which is really not a surprise. Everyone was predicting that students are going to start this year a little bit more behind than they normally would have because of not being in school for so long. But we knew that going in, and so through our interventions and through our instruction in the classroom, each campus is already working on getting students caught up. And one of the things we'll be able to do this Friday during the staff development day that you all approved for us is help all of our teachers understand what does this data mean and how do we use it to plan instructions that help fill in the gaps for all of our students. And so that's students from kindergarten all the way through high school. 2 more pieces of data that we're going to be able to use this year, and we are on slide 7. So we have Imagine Math, Imagine Espanol, and Lexia Core 5 and Power. These are programs that the students are all going to be able to do on the computer. And it's a really good tool for the students and the teachers because the computer program gives the students the lessons that they need to practice to work on the skill that they need to develop. So it really helps the teachers out because it's really hard to identify every single skill that every single student needs and then come up with a lesson to teach every single skill every single student needs. So these programs do it for the teachers. So we have Imagine Math in kindergarten through 8th grade. We have Imagine Espanol, which is a Spanish reading program for kindergarten through 3rd grade. And then we have Lexia through kindergarten through high school for reading. So these tools are going to help us give the students the practice they need to see the growth that we want to see when we test them again in February on the math section. And then the last slide is just a timeline. So you can see we test math at the beginning of the year, and then we'll test math again in about February, and then at the end of the year, we'll test math again, and that's about the same time the STAR test happens. And what we hope to see is that their end results on math match their results on STAR, and that they're performing well on both of them. In between those testing periods, students are working in Alexia and Imagine Math to practice the skills. Teachers are teaching grade level skills. They're also working with students in small groups to meet all of the needs of the students. And students are being given interventions as needed. And then teachers are also using formative assessments, unit assessments to monitor student growth on grade level skills. So that is the student progress monitoring plan for the year.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Morgan? It's okay. Thank you, Dr. Morgan.
I was just simply gonna say, and that as she's explaining this, this is the data that we're going to be bringing, and she's gonna show you just a little bit of it here in just a minute. But one of the things that this map is going to do is, while we've done some of this testing at this point, so Dr. Morgan's gonna show you some of that, we are going to be able to, next month, be able to bring you a full report of the comparisons in these, or at least where our scores are at the beginning of the year. So.
Am I able to share the screen for everyone to see, or is that not going to work?
Yeah, yes.
Right. All right, so this is just a snapshot of the data that we'll be able to bring you every month, and we can get the same data for any grade level, so it's not just third grade. But this just gives you a quick snapshot of what kind of data we're talking about. So you can see the blue columns. The first question says how many students are reading within the lifestyle level range for third grade, and we're just under 40%. The second question says how many students are on track to meet expectations on STAR reading, and we're just under 20%. The third question, we don't have any data yet because it's measuring growth. It says how many students are demonstrating adequate growth to reach their growth percentile goal. So based on the data that we're collecting right now, we'll be able to set a goal for each student. So this is how much we want you to try to grow this year. And so when we report back in February after our mid-year test, we'll be able to show you how many students are demonstrating adequate growth based on those goals. And then the last column says how many students require Tier 3 intervention to accelerate growth. So we're at about 40% of third graders needing Tier 3 intervention, which means these third grade kiddos are reading at about kindergarten and first grade level. So they have a little bit of room to grow for sure, and some gaps to fill in. But that's why we have the intervention program, and why we're having small group instruction in the classroom. And then similar data for math. We can't answer a couple of the questions just yet, but we can see that about 20-some% are on track to meet expectations on STAR Math, and about 40% are going to require Tier 3 intervention to accelerate growth in math. Any questions on any of the data?
It seems like a high number that are going to need that Tier 3 intervention. Is that kind of a sign of the times where we're at right now, or is that something we should be kind of concerned about?
That's a great question. So we definitely knew that we would have probably what we wanted starting off the year needing intervention. And I think this is what we're seeing right now is some students who may have tested a little bit lower than they should have because they lost some ground in the spring and over the summer. Last year we were sitting at similar numbers, probably a little bit less. So as students come back to campus and as they get back into the groove of school and learning, I think that we'll see our growth grow by February, and we'll see that number of students requiring a tier 3 intervention go down a little bit.
Thank you.
But we don't have any data to tell us how much of that population of tier 3 are remote learners. That's it.
We can generate that data. We don't have that here tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's a very good point to make. Not only those that are online learners, but one of the things that we're doing is I'm asking our campuses right now to generate, divide those online learners into different categories of engagement. Those who are actively engaged, those who are moderately engaged, and those who are not engaged. Because I think that that's going to help us to also drill down into what some of these issues are and help us to also address these in different ways. We have students out there that are not engaged or just kind of hit and miss. It's hard to even gauge how much of our instruction is really being effective. But we are pulling that data as well. So, yeah, we'll be able to get that data for you.
I'm still having a hard time trying to just grasp how we attend to those kids, those tier 3 kids that are remote learning, and how difficult that is.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. So that's what we'll have. And those are almost, well, they're very individualized about how we're going to be able to do that. It's an extremely difficult thing to do. You know, that's something that's expected of us. We've got to do it. We've made many home visits, our campuses have, to address a lot of these issues, and I'm sure that we're going to be making many more. At this point, I believe our hard meetings are online because we're not bringing people on campus. But bottom line is we love for these kids to be on campus, but for those that aren't, we're going to do the best we can.
Anybody have any more questions for Dr. Warren? Okay. We'll move to item number 11, consider approval of e-dynamic learning contract. Mr. Moore?
This is the start of the second year of the e-dynamic learning system. We introduced it last year, so that this year, not only do we have the principal courses that we offered last year, those who took principals are in the second phase, so we've doubled up. One of the largest courses, most popular courses that we have for our second year in a row is the ASL, the American Sign Language. So there's about 90 odd kids in that as well. And in the whole premise behind this is to provide opportunities for students where we don't have the staff to staff it. Primarily in the CT realm with IT, health science, those areas, but it's like we discussed today, there's 6 different course offerings that we provide to e-dynamic, and it would be very difficult for us to budget 6 teacher salaries for what we're paying to do it on virtually. So we're looking forward to another strong year in dealing with e-dynamic and looking at where we need to move on in the future. Any questions?
What's our cost?
$149 and change, I believe.
$149.
Yes.
49,000.
And what it is the e-dynamic is different than our other platforms in the fact that they provide a content-specific teacher that teaches the subject matter, and then on campus we have proctors that manage the students as far as discipline, campus, classroom management, that sort of thing, and just to help proctor and monitor and keep them on track.
So it's not just the student interfacing with the computer, there's an actual teacher, an instructor.
There's an instructor on the other end providing instruction.
So what we are, we're a district that is really in sort of that awkward phase of growth.
we're at a point where we need to be offering our students several different things. We really don't have the staff or the budget to be able to do that. This is sort of an intermediate step. And we've had several discussions on it, several meetings, and this is one of those things that we're doing. It's helping us now. We're looking forward to the day that we no longer have to have this kind of a program to do what we're doing. So it helps us to meet those needs for a burgeoning CTE program, among other things.
And that's something that we looked at 3 years ago, is the expansion of the electives at the high school. And so this provided that option. And I think I reported to you before, 90% of our kids at the high school are in the CTE program of some matter.
Which is pretty well blows away everybody else.
What about, like cosmetology and mechanics? I know, years ago, they were busing them to Hill College.
And that's, well, we're gonna start the conversation this Friday
Okay.
with our CTE group, and then have some surveys coming out because we're looking at the expansion of that. We also have started conversations with Hill College as far as some of their offerings and how we can partner with those guys, expanding and moving forward in the future. We've bought ourselves 2 years. We have a third year, and year 4, we're gonna have to make some moves in regards to further development of those programs. But that would be an additional piece in the whole prime puzzle. But we're gonna put out some surveys, look at some more student interest, and see which avenue we need to take moving forward.
So as far as the timeline for curriculum development, what we do is, this is prime time right now in the fall, between now and December, probably middle of January, for having discussions of curriculum and planning. So one of the things that we're doing now, like you said, we have a meeting set for Friday to start opening up these discussions. We're talking about not only CTE, but science. You know, where are we going with our science department, with our science programming? What should we be offering? And we look at 3 different things in that. One of those things is occupational outlook. We have data that tell us what are going to be hot jobs over the next 10, 15, and beyond that, it's hard to project really. But where are they going to be seeking workers over the next? And so we look at the occupational outlook, because if we go in there and say, well, we all like to take this over here, but the market is flooded with people. There's no sense in having this full-blown program for a market that already is flooded with workers. They have more workers than they have jobs. So we want to make sure that we have the occupational outlook that we take into consideration. The other one is we're talking to our staff, and one of the things we want to do is bring this and of course to the board and say, this is what we found out in looking at the occupational outlook and talking to our staff, the practitioners who are actually in the classroom, our administrators and what have you. And then also we want to bring this to our students for student survey. So we talked today about what should be on that student survey. We really don't know what should be on that student survey until such time as we put this groundwork first. And then that's going to tell us what goes on that survey. And before we give that survey to the students, we really want to prep the students for this. And so we want to make sure that they know what they're checking off and rating and all of that before they do it.
TEA on Friday released the 2021 updated CTE courses. And so there's going to be some modification and changes as far as some of the pathways, some of as far as the sequence, but in many of the pathways you can start with one and it branches into 2 or 3 areas, and that's one of the things that we're going to look at. And when we get to Friday on next board meeting, I'll present all that information to you guys so you have an accurate look at what is available and what's now the approved curriculum coursework for the pathways for CTE.
So one of the things we want to do too, as we're doing this, is come back and talk with the board about, let's talk about some things that we should be looking into for our district, again, based on those things I mentioned. What about an auto mechanics? You know, how would you do that? Clearly, that's incredibly expensive to put together. Well, does that mean it's an automatic no? Not really. What does it mean? Well, it means if that's something we really need to be doing, should it be auto mechanics, should it be diesel mechanics? A very different setup. But if so, are there other possibilities? Can we partner with a company somewhere to do this? Wouldn't bother me a bit for, you know, Ford or Toyota or Chevy or whatever to put their name out there if they're going to pay for the lifts and those kinds of things. And I've been over there and toured Hill College's facility. It is an excellent facility, but they've had, I don't remember whether it's Snap-on or another tool, a company that one of the things that they do is the student that comes in there and gets in that program, those students can buy up to $5,000 worth of tools at 50 cents on the dollar. So you buy $5,000 worth of tools, you will get 10,000. You spend $5,000, you will get $10,000 worth of tools, and that's for that program. So you start getting corporations like that that will underwrite this, and now you've really got something. So if we decide to go in those directions, then we've got to look at, you know, constructing that facility is going to be hyper expensive. So that to me is the only way we can feasibly do that. But if we set that as a priority, that within X number of years we want to have this auto mechanics, and I'm just using that as an example, then we start talking to corporations. And if we ultimately have a high school, for instance, up there on Highway 67, it's not a bad idea to have somebody sign up there that says the Ford Mechanic Shop of Venus High School. So that's not bad.
Peterbilt or Kenworth or whatever.
Peterbilt or whatever. Well, I mean, Ford's okay. But anyway, you get the idea. I'm just hyper excited about the potential. I mean, you heard the numbers that Darrell was talking about tonight. And so as we continue to grow, we will have kids to put in these programs. So these are the kinds of things that we need to think about as far as what do we want our school. In my opinion, if there's anybody that ought to have a great FFA program that branches out into many areas, it ought to be Venus ISD, because we used to be the cotton capital, right? Back in the day. Well, cotton's not king anymore right here, but we've got all of this going on. And so we ought to continue to have a highly developed FFA program. But health sciences is another area. Health sciences is not going away. Doctors, nurses, never going away. We should have a well-developed health sciences department. So the beginning stages of this is that e-dynamic, because it's that beginning level. So now once we start this, we're sort of setting ourselves up for it. We need to continue along. But those are the discussions we'll be having over the next few months.
Michelle, where does this program get funded through?
In general fund, 199.
So is this a non-budgeted item?
No, it's budgeted.
It's budgeted, but it's coming out of the general fund.
Yes. It just had to be approved, board approved, since it was over $25,000.
Okay, well, yeah,
That's my only, I was with him, I was thinking the same thing.
Yes, it's in the budget.
Well, if that's the case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the e-dynamic learning contract as presented.
Second.
Motion by Katie, second by Linda. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Motion passed. Okay. Go to item 12, executive session at 8:22 for 551-072, 551-074, and 551-076. We're going to stay in here.
What time is it?
8:22.
8:22. And I will be back shortly.
Since we're taking a break, can we get our music back?
Ladies sit. No, I had ladies sitting here and I couldn't, there
he's gonna give us our music back since we're on break.
I saw you.
I'll put you on sleep.
I know.
Oh, man.
We're gonna have to do some jamming music or something.
Maybe
Keep them all awake.
last board meeting, that, was it last week? About.
Well, I guess I'm getting kicked out.
Oh, that means I can't forget they're staying here.
But you know, it came by so fast, I was
See you later,
like,
Joe.
Hey, Joe.
And you never claimed that you
How you doing?
You just claimed you don't agree with this.
right.
Joe, how you doing, sir?
Told you were good.
Well, yeah, I'm like, but,
Good, that's what I was doing too, because
Yeah.
you still be looking around,
I
okay,
know.
well, they're all gone.
no, but as soon as they left, it was massive.
I'm supposed to want to know, do they need to stay in line or are they going?
Is this yours? Apparently it is, because I didn't put it there, and it looks like your nose, maybe.
Sorry about you. No.
One of our teachers.
They had to do, wasn't it just like years?
Yes.
I thought maybe you had laid it down here when you came over here or something.
Deborah, the games were exciting.
That's what I hear, my husband was there.
7A was really, really exciting. And there's no reason 8A should have lost to those girls.
I know.
They were
Yeah, I think that.
misdirection of ball, is what I call it tonight.
Yeah.
You know, they just couldn't get the direction to go where they wanted to. But it was exciting game. For middle school, I was surprised. Usually those are really exciting.
I know. Go wait till you
Yeah,
get to high school.
I'm wearing
get
mine
that
out
side-
past
side-
Some of those aren't even.
Oh.
Yes, we do.
That's,
Because this is like Lewis Shore, and this is.
But yeah, 14 serves,
My last
you know, for little spray.
Let me see what college is.
They even try to freeze her.
Appreciate it. Well, I have that bottle.
Yeah.
But
Let's see what.
most of you that
Yeah.
Be detrimental to us. Not too bad.
So Dingham, yeah, a lot of paperwork and stuff. Who is this guy? Gerald's not here today either. Of course, everybody was happy they had concessions tonight too.
Who ran concessions?
Most of them.
Mr. Brown and Mr. Weary. And,
So there's still not, parent involvement?
no, several parents said that they might be interested from what I heard. but- Yeah, yeah, it's not there. Well, I did it last year.
Deborah, do you know Matt?
Yes?
Did you say you did it this year?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Ragweed is high.
I know. No,
I woke up with a headache this morning, all stopped up.
Yeah. Pretty.
Tell you what, I'm gonna shut you down. Wait a minute.
That's the easy one.
So it'll be interesting how
We'll do it this year.
yeah, definitely.
Alcohol beverages all day, and teachers. I don't know.
You did, didn't you?
Nope. Nope.
Now, you know that goes back to 1975, probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Well before my time.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It was my time. I remember this, and so this song right here is by a group called Redbone. And the reason I remember it,
I need to close this.
yes, sir, please. Thank you. I grew up in Oklahoma, and so I went to high school with a lot of Native Americans. And so they were so excited when this song came out. It was like, wow, nobody's ever, a song about us, so.
Now, we don't want a camera on right now. It's closed session.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
You know, we're waiting here, out here.
No, you're in here. Okay.
I'll come in, you gotta leave. Games were fun tonight.
We're fun.
Yeah, they were exciting games.
Kids are competitive.
Yeah, they really, seven A won 2 games in a row. And Deborah Spray, her daughter, served 14 times for the first 14 points.
Who did?
Deborah Spray's daughter. Kylie? I think it's Kylie.
She scored 14, the first 14 points.
Yeah, they even tried to ice her.
consider item 15, consider approval of 2017, 2019 facility audit report.
I'll make a motion to approve the facility report.
Have a motion by Chad, second by Linda. All in favor? All in favor, no opposed, motion passes. Okay, item 16, consider approval of state district audit report tool, DAR tool.
I'll make a motion that we approve the state district audit report tool, DAR tool.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Katie, a second by Chad. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion passes. Okay, we'll go to reports, and we'll start with the superintendent.
Oh, he's already gave his.
I did.
Do what?
I've already given mine.
Okay.
The 6 weeks report.
Well, let's go to Chief Financial Officer.
Okay. All you have tonight is the cash position report, and we're at $8,243,638. I can hardly even see that. And then we're working on trying to get the end of the year reports finished with all the little journal entries in and out stuff. So as soon as I get that, probably next board meeting, I'll have some end of August reports for them. Then the only other thing that's attached is the check register. So if y'all have any questions?
After you finish those other journal entries, they're gonna knock the cash position down.
No, cash position will stay. It will stay. There will be accounts payables, but it won't hit the cash yet. It's hit the cash this month. So, but cash will stay cash as of right now.
We've got 8 million plus, what about? Did I read that wrong?
Well, pretty close to it, but it's lower because of the 3 million we took out. 3.5 million we took out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's not showing up.
No.
Yeah.
No, and then you've got food service in here too, so.
Okay. So we're down to 5. All right. Are there any questions on any of the other reports? Okay. If not, we'll go to item 18, board request for additional items.
Really?
What?
Talk to
Said
me about
any other
them
questions on any
bulldogs.
other report?
Did I miss something?
I think the athletic director and the CTE director both want to speak.
Oh, I'm just asking if there was any question on any of the other reports.
Oh,
We did not know you wanted to speak.
Well,
There's nothing down here about you wanting to.
I brought a little something I wanted to show you guys.
wait, is this the CTE director?
This is the CTE director. This is that purchase that you guys approved, so their welders would have their own personal equipment. And this is what every one of our students from intro to welding through welding 2 have been issued. So every student has got their own little handy dandy bag, and I really hope that Mr. Leonard was here tonight to see this because it's pretty cool. In this little handy dandy bag, you have a welding helmet.
That's the one that opens up when you
This,
strike an arc.
well, this is auto darkening, and they can adjust it on this knob on the side to make it clear, so they don't need a face shield. This does them all.
Wow.
Welding shirt, gloves, lunch bag if they want it, and their own set of safety glasses. So, each student has everything that they need to walk in the shop and go to work in their own. You'll see high school students carrying these all over the place. because they're told, you don't show up in class with your equipment, and you can't go to work. So it's gonna be a great thing. One of the things that we're looking at moving forward, is to try to find a couple of sponsors so that when the seniors leave, much like the Chromebooks, if they finish the welding program, get their certifications that are required, they walk out of Venus High School and they take this with them to the workforce. And then we just purchase the next set. So basically freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors got theirs. What seniors are in the program, we'll take this with them. Then we'll replace with the number of students that come in the next year. Because if you truly think about it, by the time a freshman or sophomore that gets this and they drag it around for 3 years, you wouldn't want to reissue that to another kid anyway. So
Be lucky if it looks that good. I said, be lucky if it looks that good after.
Yep. But they're heavy duty. We'll see how they hold up. But I truly appreciate, and our kids do too, you guys made this possible. And so it's just another step in the advancement of the program. Currently, we have 13 projects that have been drawn up by different groups of students. Les got to see one of the projects. We got a young lady that's going to take an old antique Ford tailgate and make a bench out of it. And she already has the design and all that kind of stuff. So there'll be some products forming out of that facility this year, as well as they've already constructed a bunch of different things already.
Bike rack is done.
Huh?
The bike rack at the high school.
Bike rack at the high school. They've built some trash can holders for Ronnie. Some other little things that they've been helping out with needs. And, you know, just.
What about the middle school? Do they have a bike rack at the middle school?
Yes.
They do?
Yeah. The high school, well, we have what, one bike rider?
We had a couple, just one this year, a special needs kid that was parking at the elementary and walking across the street. And so I told him, we're gonna, and the good thing is, he went and bought a good new bicycle, a real nice bicycle, and he was actually able to put it at the bike rack on his first day riding to school. It's right there by the gym.
So because these kids are not sharing this equipment, COVID issues are dramatically reduced. So,
Any questions on that? Okay, as of 10:30 this morning, the ticket for student athletes has been taken care of.
Yay.
So starting Thursday night for the JV football game and from henceforth forward, I've got to get with the campuses and the coaches, go through the steps of what they have to do, but basically they'll go onto the website, go to tickets. They have an access code, which is their student ID. They'll be able to purchase one ticket, which will be free, and they will have to show up with their ID and their ticket to walk in the gate. So
if I show up with my ticket but not my ID,
no proof of who you are.
my ID but not my ticket.
You can't get in. That's as simple as I can make it.
So who goes on the website? The
No,
coach
the
or
kids, the
the
kids can do it and send it to their own school email. And they'll have it on their phones when they walk through the gate, just like the adults.
Yeah.
So,
It's easy enough.
multiple emails, phone calls, and I thought I had it figured out first thing this morning, and it didn't work, so I had to make a couple more phone calls, and we got it ironed out. And basically, they'll have, where it says adult home, student home, adult visitor, student visitor, well, they will have their own tab to click that says access code, and it pops up student athlete. And then click one ticket and put their name in, email address, submit, boom.
So the coaches are gonna tell the kids tomorrow, or do they tell them today?
No, they didn't tell them today because it wasn't
Okay.
100%, and we're not starting till Thursday. I will be in all the athletic periods with boys and girls and band, explaining to them how that's going to work.
Thank you.
So it was you know, this whole online ticket thing is new to everybody. And I can assure you that young lady right over there is so happy that we did it. Just because of all the extras that they have to do as far as going to get cash, reconciling funds, reconciling tickets and all those things. We get, they send her money. And that's about it.
It still doesn't make it to where I can go outside and get a cigarette at halftime.
Well, that's the GRU law.
I actually had a guy last Friday night who said, Ms. Grew, I'm going to the car. I bought 2 tickets. When I bought my ticket, I know you're not gonna let me back in. I said, okay.
Smoke.
As long as you go down the street and you're not on school property, I'm good.
So I think we've got the last of the wrinkles ironed out, so.
It's not the athletics, but I'd just say athletics / maybe band.
Yes.
Has there been any issues with any people? I mean, I notice our band is currently not traveling for away games.
Correct.
Is that, I see, when we have our games, we see traveling, we see other bands coming here.
That was a 30-member pep band.
I mean, I'm just.
And we discussed that with Mr. Langdon up front, and he just didn't feel confident in the development of the program to handpick 30 kids and leave the others out. He said in the future, if it continues on, then yes. So that's why, just because of capacity and busing and transportation and close proximity and all that stuff is if you noticed, all of our cheerleaders cheered on JV night. They will this Thursday. If we don't have a home game for varsity, they'll cheer on Thursday night because they're not traveling.
Yeah, he just said, he said, Mr. Sharp said, I'd be hard pressed to be able to find kids. He said, it's hard for me to find a varsity group out of our band. Now, you put them together and they sound great all together. But he said, you start pulling kids out of there, and he said, yeah, it's going to be a way different deal. So did not feel confident in being able to do that. So that was his main thing.
And you know, if you heard them Friday night, they sound great. And just for the strength in building the program, that was one of the decisions that we made early on.
No, like I said, they do sound great, and that's why my thing is like, it sounds so great. You know, it's always nice to have that extra spirit, you know, with the team. So.
Yeah. No, I'm the same because that's what I would really, you know, I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
But he was just like, boy, he said, what I just can't put together a band to travel at this point. I think even a year from now, we surely will not be going through all of this stuff next year. But if we had to, I think it'd be a very different question that we'd be able to feel, because he'll be working with those kids at that point.
Well, and I go back, I was like, I remember watching the broadcast on Mineral Wells and hearing their broadcasters, and they make a comment, they look over at the Venus truck side there, well, looks like there's hardly any Venus fans present. I guess that's just because of the long drive, you know, and that's heartbreaking.
Well, and we
have traveling, you know, it's like,
Terry communicated all that information to their coaching staff, even to the extent that there would not be a band there to play our school song, and the announcer still asked for it. So
And I don't think, I thought that was pretty. Yeah, I didn't like that.
no, I didn't like it either. Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Moore?
East all done, now you can go to 18.
All right. Okay, we'll go to item 18. Is there any request for additional items or information?
Just what time are those meetings on the 8th and 19th? Well, 19th will be, I guess, regular meeting. But,
The 19th should be 7.
The 8th.
The 8th, I'm guessing probably start at 7 or 6 or 7.
It's that workshop.
We start at 7 o'clock unless y'all want to go at 6.
What's the 8th? Is that a Monday?
is a Wednesday,
No, sir. No, sir, it wouldn't be a Wednesday. I believe it's a Thursday, actually.
Thursday.
Okay. I'm
19th?
It is a Thursday. 7 o'clock, or would y'all like to go at 7 better? Okay, 7 o'clock then, if everybody's good with that. On the 8th.
Okay. Move to item 19, which we will adjourn at 9:24.
Did you get to meet the student of the month at the high school? We're working.